All right, guys. Episode 41.
41.
What's that?
41.
What are you humming?
I'm singing a song. I'm feeling a really good mood.
Oh, he's karaokeing again.
Oh yeah, we've been doing. I got a karaoke machine, Bobby. I've been singing a lot more songs. Oh, I've got a beautiful voice.
What's your song?
Yeah. Well, that was a Sunshine song. I'm walking on sunshine.
Oh,
that
Look
song.
Who's Talking.
That one. Huh?
Look Who's Talking. Isn't it in that?
What?
Walking on Sunshine.
Bobby's. Are you talking about the baby movie?
The baby movie.
Bobby's always talking about babies.
Oh, like Look Who's Talking?
Go ahead and have a baby by now. I don't
Look
care.
Who's Talking.
No, I'm not talking. I'm talking.
I know.
Shut up.
Teddy's
No,
talking.
that movie. John Travolta. I feel like he's dancing to that song.
You don't play movies in a karaoke machine, Bobby. Anyway, so
Okay, episode 41. Let's keep the
Episode
intro
41.
brief. Let's keep it brief. I'm sorry.
Sounds
All right. Well,
good.
hey guys.
Hi.
We did our top 10, and we concluded that Burke was our number one suspect.
we did. It was good. It was a
And
good conversation.
I wanted to look into the Nintendo 64 and more of that theory. That caused me to stumble upon another theory.
What are you talking about? Nintendo theory? Like Mario did it?
I'm talking about an old internet poster by the name of BlueCrab. And so
BlueCrab.
we're going to explore his theory, and his theory is going to blow you guys' mind. And we're also going to look into how his eventual disappearance would lead to a conspiracy in itself.
That's pretty presumptive of you, Bobby. To think that my mind's gonna get blown ever again. I mean, it's been blown a few times.
It has been blown.
Wait, so what's his actual name?
It's Blue Crab.
We're going to get
He's
to
Chinese, Donna.
Oh my
Fine.
God.
Okay.
All right, let's do the episode.
Let's do it. All right. Well,
Episode
hey,
41.
I'm Bobby Pavlovsky.
I'm Teddy Ronald Range.
And this is...
JonBenet today. And then they just kept giving us sake, and I was like, sake told me. I loved it. I love Japanese people. I mean, when you got to think about like Asian people, you just, no one ever asks you like, what's your favorite Asian person? But they're also different people.
Yeah, why
Right.
would somebody ask you that?
I don't know, but Japanese people are definitely my favorite.
Okay, well, that's fantastic.
Or anybody that do karaoke.
All right.
Karaoke's Japanese. It's a Japanese
They
word.
do love karaoke.
It's carry. It means to
Japanese?
carry,
Yeah,
carry a note.
Asians in general,
Oh,
like
yeah.
the Philippines, they love karaoke.
Like the restaurants.
broad
so,
brush,
like,
Bobby.
Have, like karaoke night. It's amazing.
That's where the Journey frontman came from. And that's
Oh,
where,
yeah.
in an instance, instead of like Linkin Park replaced their singer with, somebody that's a different voice, they got a Filipino guy who sounds exactly like.
Honestly, most
exactly
pop
like that.
music should be sung by Filipinos. I love them. I love them a lot more than other people.
That's what they should do
They
for
should do
most
it.
bands. Once somebody
Yeah.
dies, just go to the Philippines.
Yeah, go
you
Philippines.
Will find your
Find a quick
replacement.
replacement, cheap.
They can find that guy from One Direction.
And
They
you're
can
going to be
find
able to
anyone of
tour
him.
for the next
no.
forever because you were always the replaceable members of the band.
Yeah, you can
So-
just there's a lot of Filipinos with big families.
That's hilarious if all the bands in like 100 years are just all
Filipinos. Hey. Yeah, that'd be awesome. That's where it needs to go. That's where it needs to go.
This is where
still
the
sounds
world
great.
is going.
The Rolling Stones.
Anyway,
Rolling Stones is a band where you can only dance to them if you're on cocaine.
well, yeah, Rolling Stones is a band,
yeah.
where, if you're still afraid of black people in the year 2024, you listen to Rolling Stones to like get your kicks because you think it's like rock and roll. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What?
Like you
I like-
roll around with the top down in your car
Yeah.
through
What?
the parking lot, and you
There's
have
a
your
different
favorite song playing.
There's a difference between being like a wild emu running across the Australian outback and like a chicken in a little fence, in a little pen, being played the same fucking song on a cassette. That's Rolling Stone fans.
What? No,
I
okay,
am
hold
an
on.
emu.
Real quick, I need to go back to her talking about somebody driving around with their top down, listening to the Rolling Stones.
Yeah,
That's a Trump fan.
That's a Trump fan.
I mean, I could see a
didn't
truck.
See a Trump sticker.
I could say like a truck, maybe.
That person tips five.
like
just
those
playing
tired
Street Fighting Man
assholes that
over and
just,
over
like,
again.
And like the songs aren't real substance.
No.
You know what I mean? Rolling
All right.
Stones.
And it's a
I love the
vibe.
Rolling
Yeah, it's a
Stones.
vibe. But
Shut
you
up.
can't-
You guys-
Start me up, it's start me up. Shut up.
You shut up. That's a terrible song.
It's a horrible song, but
I don't
that's
like
their
that
only song.
No, it's not.
They've got like 5 songs about
Sympathy for the Devil.
Ooh, sing it.
Street Fighting Man.
Sing him. All
Yeah,
right.
come on,
Let me go vote for J.D. Vance. I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
You know the song Rape Murder? Just a shot away.
Oh, that is a good song. But
Yeah.
you know what? A black lady lost her baby to singing that song, which is very Trumpian.
It sounds like an urban legend.
No, that's true. You can watch it. Go ahead, play it.
JD Vance sounds
Pull up,
like
Donna.
a car dealership.
J.D. Vance says that he sounds like a
What are
Like
you
JD
working on your Type
Vance.
5?
a hearse dealership.
Right, or a Toyota.
J.D. Vance hearse.
Who is talking about JD Vance?
He just said JD Vance.
You brought up JD Vance. You brought up.
I didn't bring up JD Vance.
I brought
said
up.
it.
I brought up JD Vance.
Okay.
Then it just sounds like a dealership. That's all I'm saying.
And I'm saying it sounds like a
Sorry.
Hearst dealership.
I don't think they have Hearst dealerships.
They should. I want a good deal on a Hearst.
Okay.
They probably do like have like a show.
They probably got something where you can get a competitive price on a good Hearst and quality condition.
Customize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Customize your hearse. I don't think there's like a thing where it's like people choose the funeral home because it's like, oh, that hearse is like really
Okay,
cool.
but if there were two funeral homes, still right, Big Bobby.
Yes, and if one had a shitty hearse, yes, I would choose
One that had a hearse with a fish tank in it, you would pick that one.
No, I would absolutely not choose that one.
Or like a horse-drawn one, like where like the
Oh, it's John. That's actually funny. A funeral
Horse-drawn
procession.
hearse.
Yeah.
That's like rude. Like you gotta wait for that funeral procession. It's just a bunch of cars on a horse.
yeah.
The horses, they get off on the smell of formaldehyde. They get horse erection.
I'm sure if you had enough money, you could request that.
Oh, absolutely.
You want horse, John Hurst? You want boner? No boner. Yeah, go give me boner.
And I wanted to do a couple laps around the cemetery too.
Yeah, a couple laps.
Right, just take the kids around.
Like George Washington times.
Do one fast.
Yeah. How do you think they invented peanut butter? They were at these funerals. They were so long. They were like, let me just keep stirring all this oil and
there is
and
the
peanut.
oil on the top. Yeah, you always gotta stir it.
Wait, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
When they were
butter.
making food at the funerals while they were waiting for the horses to finish circling the funeral.
Talking about the peanut butter?
That's
You're
how they
gonna
made
feed the horse?
That's why they made peanut butter. No, you can't feed peanut butter to horses.
What are you talking? Yeah, you can. That's how they made Mr. Ed
Bobby,
talk.
can we just get on with the episode? Jesus Christ, I feel like I'm in goddamn Guambambos.
Sir, you took us down this path.
Yeah, you kind of.
The path, and I want to get back on the right path.
Yeah, and you know what the right path is? No. That's right, you don't. So can I just do the episode, please?
Well, you
Yes,
make it so that
Bobby.
we rely on you.
Yeah, I'm the one doing like
Anybody notice
psychological
that?
mind games here.
I mean, I'm completely at your mercy and surrender. And you just call me Donna names like Stope.
Donna
Donna.
name.
Shut up, Donna, you stupid.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Okay, so after we did our top 10 episode where we concluded that Burke right now is the most likely suspect,
Oh, yeah.
I had made the joke about how he had a Nintendo 64. Why would he even notice it? I couldn't get that out of my head though. A couple mornings ago, I was like, no, there's no way he went downstairs with his dad that night, did something where they put together a toy car garage.
Car garage, come on.
He
He's
just
not,
got
he's
the
not
hottest
a
video
toddler.
game item ever.
I got a Nintendo 64.
Yeah, then what are you building? You don't give a fuck about
Yeah,
that.
you're not gonna do it. Sneak down and again,
Some little
we
tight
don't
sweeper
find out
wobble
till
shit.
20-some years later, that he actually did sneak down that night.
And I think your dad had said he used the flashlight that night to put you to bed, and then you snuck downstairs to play.
Yeah, I had some toy that I wanted to put together. I remember being downstairs after everyone was kind of in bed and wanting to get this thing out.
Did you use the flashlight so you wouldn't be seen?
I don't remember. I just remember being downstairs. I remember this toy.
No, that's right.
Just to, I don't know, play with toy bullshit, whatever.
Where the presents were.
Yeah, possibly.
Okay.
But even then, for me, again, thinking about the Nintendo 64 makes me like, why is he checking other shit? That almost seems part of a cover up. Whatever, we're going to get into it. I couldn't stop thinking about the Nintendo 64, and I wanted to know what games he got, and if he got more than one controller.
Oh, yeah.
The whole issue with sharing, and kids can be very spastic when it comes to...
When you buy an N64, there was only one controller that came with it. You'd have to buy more.
Really?
You could have up to 4.
And our friend Cotton Star has pointed out that Burke definitely fits the psychological profile of somebody who wouldn't want to share.
Oh.
He'd be a thing of watch me play kind of thing.
Oh, yep. I know the type.
A lot of people have thought that maybe it's just Super Mario 64 that was out, because this system came out in September, okay?
September of 1996.
1996, yes.
Oh, okay.
And so I wanted to find out what games were out by Christmas. I got a list here put up here. The first two games at launch, by the way, were Super Mario 64 and a game called Pilot Wing.
Pilot Wings?
Pilot Wings.
Like plane pilot wings?
Like plane pilots. I got Burke,
Wow.
who loved planes.
He loved planes.
It was a little flight simulation game. It was single player, though. As was Super Mario 64.
Did it come with the station, or was it one of the first games you could buy?
A lot of the video game stations came with Super Mario 64, but it was one of the first games you could buy, and there's no way for Burke. They're not getting him a flight simulator.
I mean, my
Obviously,
God. He used to
yeah, he
watch
loves
videos
that.
of shit. I mean, yeah.
I've highlighted in yellow all the games that were multiplayer.
I mean,
So out of the 8 games, 5 of them were multiplayer.
no.
So we got the Mortal Kombat trilogy. I don't see him doing that. Wave Race, possibly.
Oh, man.
Cruising USA, definitely. I love that game. That was a fun game. But that one came out December 2nd. Maybe it was too late. So it's not clear whether or not he got more than one. Because again, that morning when he was awoken, he was taken over to the White's house. Yeah. He took his Nintendo 64 with him.
He did. He packed it up.
He did. And there's some pictures that show what looks like a controller laying there. Some people think it's an extra controller that was left. It's black. I don't think it looks anything like the actual like Nintendo controller or not.
Yeah.
But I was laying there and I was thinking, I was like, he probably hit her with the thing. Like there's a thing of
those controllers were heavy.
And then got to take the motor with him. And there's a possibility that maybe even choked her with
the cable.
With the cable.
Because things weren't cordless.
Exactly.
For people of this year, 2024, year of our Lord, everything is cordless these days.
And
controllers
whoever
was not.
and it's like whoever hit her on the head was lucky enough or too weak to cause a blow that caused her to bleed out.
Oh.
Which then maybe would cause them to strangle with a cord.
What if they were
Which
playing-
is why they don't
Finish the
show...
job.
Yeah, and they don't show that on the garrote that was around her neck. They don't show that it was embedded in her skin.
No, it won't.
It seemed like it was almost kind of loosely placed there, and that her
Like
neck
it would
inflamed
be.
up around it, but there's not fibers embedded in her skin.
No.
And the Nintendo controller wouldn't show that either.
No, it wouldn't, because it made a different thing, not fiber.
And maybe if
There
the
wouldn't be
flashlight...
fiber from it.
Maybe the flashlight was up in his room from when his dad maybe took him to
Oh
bed.
shit, maybe he
And
hit
maybe, he hit her over the head with it.
She was playing Nintendo 64 with him, maybe. Because people get frustrated. I've seen, friends and people that let me in their house or let me watch through their windows where especially little boys or whatever, but they'll just rage and they'll throw the controller like at the wall or at the TV or
And Patsy
they
would,
break it.
it's the thing is like if she encounters this scenario, maybe I could see her helping covering up because it's the thing is she doesn't find out about the sexual abuse until her first 1997 interview. That's when she gets emotional before they also introduce the other questioning about his sisters.
Oh, yeah.
Because she just finds out that JonBenet had supposedly been abused and she kept asking for the report. Where does it say that?
Where does it say
So it's the thing of obviously if she thought Burke was maybe sexually abusing her, she might have felt less inclined to help possibly cover up a murder when she thought it was maybe just a spastic accident involving her son rather than sexual abuse. And there's also interesting in his interview when I was wanting to know like what game he possibly had because we knew maybe he had Mario and possibly he had Pilot Wings.
Pilot Wings.
Which he would want to play, okay?
I want to play Pilot Wings right now.
The detective asks him what does his sister do that annoys him. He says she likes to play games with this tune that's like beep 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 like kind of thing. Like we only have the transcript to go off of. I'll let you go. Let me know if you guys think that's what it looks like.
Let me see it. I don't like the music.
Oh yeah, it's like the song.
Because I don't like it. Like
like
maybe
Mario
she likes
song.
playing the Mario, and it's like he wanted to play it.
Yeah.
And he wanted to play Pilot Wings possibly, but unfortunately they also had the NES, so it doesn't really rule out maybe if he was annoyed by another Mario game.
I'm looking at that sample real quick, Bobby. Did you fight with your sister yesterday about video games? No. That's interesting.
About not wanting her to play video games. You don't like to share with her. Because I don't like the music, it's the da-da-da-da-da-da. So it's to suggest that she was playing Mario and he was...
But I'm looking at all those. I'm looking at I'm looking at the whole, I'm looking at everything on that little snippet. Like, what would you fight with your sister about? Like, saying is like you dragging out like what you're going to say or how you want to say it or even what you bring up about not wanting her to play video games. You don't like to share with her. Because I just don't like the music. It's like da-da-da-da-da. Did you fight with your sister yesterday about video games? No. And it's like this comes up when it's like this is like a touchy subject. And when I think about it, I mean it's so right, Bobby. God damn it, our fucking list is wrong. Wait, no, we still put Burke at number one.
We still put
Burke. He was still number one.
But he probably beat her in the head with the video game.
And we also have the account of basically from Lindsay Phillips, who was Judith Phillips, the photographer that took all those pictures.
Oh yeah.
Her daughter used to play with JonBenet all the time. She wrote a letter to JonBenet. It was like a thing.
Oh, she wrote a letter to JonBenet.
Remember when we tease your brother all the time? Let's go bother Burke, you'd say. And so we would go in his room where he was playing his Nintendo endlessly and unplug his computer. And then he would say, heck, I was at the highest level. And we would run away, go in your bathroom and lock the door. And he would be banging on it and we would be giggling behind it.
Oh.
Who says heck? Anyway.
Well, he's a little kid. He's, Mormon adjacent.
I mean, he seems like the kind of nerd that would say that it's violent.
He's probably flipping his middle finger, between his other
She
fingers.
says, the last time I saw him, we were at Dougie's house, and he was so sad and grieving and hardly could talk from missing you. I wanted to hug him, but I couldn't.
Okay. Well, we know then that they get into lots of arguments, especially around video games, and he got a brand new video game system that night. And I know from my own, dreams of having a home and Christmas presents where if I got a video game system and then I had to go to like a dinner at someone else's house or whatever, then when I got home, I would want to immediately get back and I want to play video games.
That's all you would do all night.
That's all I would do all
That's
night.
all I would do, and I'd be very annoyed. And it's like I can see an
Especially
incident.
with your parents not there.
Yeah.
Like, duh.
What do you mean your parents not there, you stupid idiot?
No, his parent, like when they were at like the dinner. Like,
He was
What are you
with them.
talking about?
God, you're so
Never mind.
fucking
We're talking
stupid.
about Christmas night.
She acts like she
never
doesn't know
mind.
anything, but then I think that she really don't. I mean, I can't stand her.
So, the last little bit with the Burke and the Nintendo 64 theory.
Yeah.
There was somebody on Reddit that pointed out that the bruise on JonBenet's neck actually matched the shape of a Nintendo 64 controller, and that she was strangled with the controller to the point of where, you know, it hit her.
Oh my God.
Up against
the
her.
handle.
Is that her neck, Bobby?
The hand, yeah,
That's a sad, terrible. That's a scary picture.
Yeah, I'll
that's
put up a
awful.
viewer discretion before my bad.
Well, a little too late for that. But like, but
Not on, visually, but yeah.
But back to the day, the N64 controller, it had all these interesting angles to it and different faces, like one would consider the facets of a jewel.
And like a black, like nylon cord kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not nylon, it was more of like a plastic.
It was like a
coated-
plastic nylon.
plastic,
Yeah.
It was just like a cable.
It wasn't nylon though.
It
That's
was,
true.
yeah, nylon. I didn't
No
say
fiber.
But it was
That's
a
the
long
cord that actually
cable.
was around the neck.
Yeah, and so then what this guy's saying is that if she was being strangled with that cord, one of the faces of this weird shaped controller would have pushed against and bruised her neck. And so what part of the controller is that supposed to be?
Looks like one of the bottom handles.
What about the handles?
Looks like it could have been the main one.
Oh my God, yeah. It could be.
He's pressing it down.
It is a weird shape that isn't easily explained by like a thumb or some of a hand. Or,
Right.
It's like something where it's like,
a triangle.
it looks like some Chinese wood blocking.
And in
thing.
that great thread, Stray Dog goes on to point out that it would explain why Patsy would cooperate in a cover-up in regards to the rope, like the garrote, and why her fibers would have been found there, because they wouldn't be able to explain away the neck marks.
Oh yeah.
If they just found her with a head injury, it'd be different, but because they found out she had neck marks, this is gonna look.
They needed something that wasn't the actual object that did like strangled her, but something that like could be just like planted as something.
Because it wasn't pressed in.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Wow. That's okay.
It's
wow.
just so disturbing.
I
I
mean,
wanted to
in
find
64.
out more about like the theories involving the Nintendo 64 and that night. And what I ended up finding would amaze me, which leads us to our main story tonight, the BlueCrab theory.
Oh my God.
So BlueCrab, he ends up stating a lot of things that when you first hear it, you're like, there's no way.
BlueCrab.
BlueCrab.
He's a guy on a message board.
This guy on Websleuths who he first appeared in January 18th of 2004 on the forum.
January 18th.
So his theory, here's what he says in response to one of the members on a Websleuths forum. River, in my theory, I think both parents came upon the disaster around 3:30 a.m. JonBenet had died at the hands of the boys, perhaps accidentally or perhaps on purpose at around 1 a.m. The kids had most of the staging in place when the parents got up at 3:30 a.m. to get ready for the all-day trip to Charlevoix. The Ramseys had to be at the airport by 6:30 and never would have made it if they hadn't got up until 5:30 as they claim.
Oh.
He said, yes, in my opinion, John and Patsy knew immediately the kids were involved, but it appears they don't know for sure which one actually did the killing. Just my opinion.
Wait, BlueCrab.
And he signs off a lot of the times now with he did, just my opinion. Or
Just my opinion.
JMO.
JMO. So he's got a good point. Well, notwithstanding anything else, these people would not have woken up an hour before their private flight was supposed to go out.
Yes, 6:30 in the morning.
6:30 in the morning.
That's really cutting it close.
It is
Yeah.
cutting it close.
I mean, security wasn't the same.
well,
I
it's also, it was a
guess.
private plane. That's not the same thing.
They don't,
Right.
gotta
You don't
get
have
that-
to go
they don't have to
through
go through
security.
security.
You don't have to go through
But they still got to be dressed. They still got to have other luggage ready. They got to
And if John's going to help
drive there.
him
get the
pilot,
car.
he's got a co-pilot. There's certain preparations you have to make, and you have to be there at a certain time kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And so it does make more sense that they would wake up earlier in the morning.
Well, yeah,
Because also you can
obviously.
sleep during the flight.
And you're not going to be waking up at 5:30, an hour before.
Right.
So that was in his first thread on these boards in January
okay.
of 2004. I've seen posts where people seem to be welcoming him back as if he was possibly, posting a long time ago, but now he's back.
Okay.
His last post ended up being June 19th of 2007, though. And we'd never see or hear from BlueCrab again.
Bobby,
He would
that's
have-
forever ago.
He would have stretches of time, where you would, maybe go away for a few months or something like that. But never just disappear for years.
So BlueCrab would post off and on for about 3 years' time, and now he never know about it.
Now he's just MIA.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're going to look into why he possibly disappeared a little bit later. But let's look into one of his second big theories that he ended up basically saying is his main theory up until he disappeared.
Okay.
I found the first instance of it on a February 11th, 2004. So this is 5 years after the grand jury is, closed out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He put a post up and he titles it, he goes, "Things are slow, so maybe this is an unusual little lead could be investigated here." When the person who wrote the ransom note finished writing it, he signed off with SBTC without the period at the end on C.
Okay.
Okay. He says, was it the writer's mistake to leave off the final period, or did the writer intend to leave it off? How many people who use 4 initials to identify themselves would put periods after each initial except the last one? It's rather unusual unless they do it all the time. He says, I can't make the link work. Maybe one of you can, but please type Asian Pacific American Coalition into your search engine and then scroll down and click on the one that says Asian Pacific American Coalition, last updated on April 14th, 1997 by KJLB, and the period's missing, groups. Then scroll to the bottom of the page. He indicates that it's missing. He's saying now it's not that important. He's like, except for the APAC was a proactive group, individuals at a Colorado university, and its 29 members could loosely be described as a small foreign faction. APAC suspiciously shut down shortly after JonBenet was murdered, even though it had been in business for years. The university said the group's financial activities ceased after 1996, although it's left its website up, but unattended. The group had speakers scheduled for its meetings in 1997, but abandoned them too. APAC's connection to the JonBenet case is by way of I'm going to bleep that. The teen college student who lived at the Stine's house and was Doug Stine's caregiver while the parents, Glenn and Susan Stine, worked at the university and was a member of APAC.
All right.
Whoa.
This is his first instance of bringing up the Asian Pacific American Coalition and the babysitter for Doug Stine. And again, we're going to bleep him.
Babysitter?
The babysitter for Doug Stine.
Doug Stine was Brett Ramsey's friend, and he had a babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
And his name, we're going to bleep it out.
Mm-hmm.
And
so he was very steadfast on these theories, okay? He was also pretty steadfast. A lot of people would start to think that he possibly had some sort of inside knowledge because this comes from a post in 2004 as well.
Okay.
There was no reinvestigation. They just wanted to look like this one. There are certain people in authoritative positions in Boulder who know who killed JonBenet. The cops and the DA take turns sitting on the egg they know will never hatch. It's been nothing but hocus pocus and cover up by authorities since the Ramsey grand jury ended in 1999. In my opinion, that jury solved the case. He then goes on to talk about how the money for an investigation dried up and how the Colorado Children's Code works in regards to that if he's under 18, i.e. Burke, those juvenile records are always going to be sealed. So in regards to the grand jury, and if they chose to indict the parents or based on the fact that possibly Burke killed her, that's an extra layer of stuff being sealed that we don't know.
Oh, so it's got nothing to do with the movie Hocus Pocus.
No.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, I love Hocus Pocus.
No, it's in regards to that Burke. Is that the grand jury could have decided that Burke killed her.
That Burke killed her, and that's why the files are sealed.
That's part of those, those files. We don't.
I would have to.
But Patsy and John could also be charged with first degree because they contribute to an environment that led to a child's death.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was the thing. We had a commenter on our last episode say that the reason they don't buy Patsy or Burke is because that part of the charge was that they were aiding a first-degree murder. Or murder one, basically.
Murder one, yeah.
Okay, and he's saying that requires premeditation. But if you look into Colorado laws at that time, it actually, for Patsy, if she was in an environment, she was allowing an environment where the child was being abused and she was in an authoritative role, i.e. child abuse, that's murder one. Or for Burke, it's if you were sexually abusing somebody, if somebody dies during you sexually abusing them, that's murder one too.
Oh my God.
It doesn't require
if he had been doing
premeditation.
something like that.
Oh my God.
It doesn't require premeditation.
That's still murder one, and it's very indicative of Burke. And this person here is saying the grand jury solved it. Well, he thinks, and this is in 2004, people began to think that he had inside info.
Yeah.
But I found an earlier post from him where somebody asked him that same thing, and he says no. He's like, this is just my opinion.
They asked BlueCrab that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If he is some sort of insider.
Well, I mean, no one would want to give up their cover. No. But yeah, I mean, there was something weird about when Alex Hunter was like, under no circumstances ever, blah, 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 will any of the details of this shit ever come out, blah, blah, blah.
Under no circumstances will I or any of my advisors discuss grand jury proceedings today or ever, unless ordered by the court.
And it makes sense where it's like, oh my God, if it was like that they found that Burke was the one who killed her, even if it was accidental. But then that environment and all the things that maybe kind of just piled up in the face in light of, this event that required that kind of scrutiny. The jurors got to see, like, listen, this home was not safe for really, maybe any of these people, but especially these kids, and and JonBenet, and then there's culpability on the Colorado statutes that also could have, just could have pinned the Ramseys. You know what I mean?
And now it's all sealed away.
It's sealed away, and they chose not to convict. And after 4 months or something like that, they can't choose to do it.
Well, with Burke as a minor, you couldn't find anything anyway.
What's weird,
no matter
but
what.
the parents would still be going to jail.
Sure,
but what's weird for me, real quick, you idiot, is just that if the case is still technically open by the Boulder Police Department, and this person, BlueCrab's trying to say, oh, they take turns, who holds the hot potato or whatever. The Boulder Police Department wouldn't they go after Burke at this point because he's an adult?
No.
They won't?
No, there's no way. I don't think they could even get him now. Oh. Because it's probably because of whatever and honestly, I think a huge hinge point of this is because of possibly the illegally obtained first interview. Oh. I think that was a problem.
Oh, right, yes.
Because apparently the parents didn't even find out about it until 2000. Oh. So, and again, that speaks to how much they talked to Burke too. Yeah. Where there's no mention because they don't even want to find out. It's I don't even want to know. That kind of situation. But
so maybe it's a case where they're oh, we just can't do it.
And I don't think there'd be. And again, he was under the age of where you could actually be. If anything, now it's just you should be more worried that there's this person still out there, which they're not lying, kind of thing.
Yeah, I would almost want to go in a sort of. A Forrest Whitaker direction where it's here I am, a man with a secret that I killed my sister, but I can't legally be arrested or charged for it ever again. So let me for the sake of my soul, let me tell the world, let me let it out. Let me create some kind of parable about forgiveness.
Well, and that's not. And the thing is with BlueCrab, there's a misconception that he's BDI, and he's even pointed out in comments that that's actually not necessarily true. Oh, he holds some unpopular opinions that again, when I'm first hearing him, I'm like, that doesn't, no way. And then he talks me into it. Yeah. And one of the unpopular opinions is that it's not necessarily Burke. He thinks it could possibly have been, again, when he alludes in that first post where he says the boys.
Oh, yeah, the boys.
He's referring to the fact of Doug Stine, which is the Stine's son, as in the last house they visited, and Burke's friend was over there, and possibly even the babysitter.
Oh, at the Stine's house.
The other unpopular opinion he holds is that he thinks that the boys wrote the ransom note.
Oh my God, BlueCrab.
And it almost kind of makes sense in the way of if you think of the childish language of it. Kids watch a lot of movies where Patsy doesn't know who made this awful ransom note, which is why she speculates, maybe.
But the handwriting was so close to Patsy's. I've never seen. Well, and that's Burke or Stine's or the person babysitter's handwriting.
That's the thing. There's a guy, Darnay Hoffman, who deserves his own episode in itself. He was a New York lawyer in 1997. Who he took advantage of this Colorado statute basically that stated that if you thought a prosecuting attorney wasn't doing their best for the case, you could sue them. Oh. So basically move the case up. So he decided to do that. And he developed this whole wealth of case documents that ended up on a Candy Rose. By the way, just update on him when we finally do his episode. Spoiler alert. Darnay Hoffman supposedly committed suicide in 2011 by stabbing himself in the chest.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
What in the fucking Royal Tenenbaums crazy Elliott Smith shit is that supposed to be?
Aren't there easier ways?
That's to say
there's easier ways
actually killed himself. That sounds more like a fucking murder to me. But anywho, a Candy Rose has some of his documents on there, including the exemplars he obtained. One of which being from Burke's photo album. I couldn't get to them because for some reason the links are dead now. Even if you use a Wayback Machine, the pictures won't load. Very suspicious, like the scrub. But our good friend Cotton Star kept a hold of it.
Cotton Star!
Thank you so much, Cotton Star, for holding on to it.
Oh my God.
And he used this, Darnay Hoffman used his own handwriting expert to determine that Patsy wrote the note based off this photo album. The thing for BlueCrab says is that this isn't Patsy's handwriting. This is Burke's handwriting. As in, it's written in a cutesy way, like, oh, me and my doctor. But I think this is way too...
Oh. I will say, this handwriting looks a lot like the handwriting on the letter. I was too. I was going bike riding with my mom and my dad.
Well, yeah.
This is me when I was first born. That's my mom and the doctor. Huh.
Yeah, Patsy wouldn't write that.
We have this one right here, the Rainbow Fish Players.
I don't know. I think that's Patsy's handwriting.
You think that's Patsy?
I think it's Patsy. I think actually that like tells me, because kids, you can even see
I mean, that's its own separate thing though too.
Yeah, that's true. But like so between these exhibits, like this one, I can actually I don't necessarily say I think it's Brains, but I could more so see that's a boy, like a young kid's writing, because
look at that though. I was having a picture to like the spacing and shit.
I'm having a picture.
Spacing is weird.
It's possible, but back to my point is that these are not like on straight like planes. Like these lines, these sentences, they go up, like they start at one point and and then the handwriting like starts to go up. That other one, that Fish Players one, that is like pretty much almost like Etsy level straight across.
Right.
And so, but also I see where people do those baby books too. And sometimes it's like where it's like fill in the blanks and you're just like filling in one word, or maybe it's already filled out and you just put a photo next to it that just corresponds with it.
That's a straight up one for the doctor one.
This one me when I was first born. That's my mom and
Show
the
doctor.
doctor. Yeah.
Well, let me say it.
I don't know. I mean, it could be his, but I think.
Well, and that's so. The other thing though is that maybe it wasn't necessarily Burke. Maybe it was Doug Stine or somebody like that. But either way, that she maybe came across this this childish note kind of thing.
I mean, so here's my thing. Just going off of what I'm hearing. There's like two components. There's like where there's the Stine boy that Brent was friends with, and they stopped at the Stines right before they went home on the night of Christmas, and there were like 2 cans of Coke or whatever. But also like the Stine boy had a babysitter who is like a student at the University of Colorado that never gets talked about.
This 21-year-old, he lived with the Stines, who the police didn't find out until 2000.
And we've also heard that there were like people around John Andrew Ramsey's age that were like friends of his or whatever, people that like John Andrew Ramsey didn't necessarily need to be in the house for like someone around that age group to be there. So it's also like, okay, I could also see where a 21-year-old babysitter, from the Steins could also sometimes be in the house. But then if the family, if they were like, maybe if there was a cover up that did or did not involve a babysitter or whatever, and then the parents woke up at 3:30, and then by the time that the police arrived, I mean, there was already a ransom letter, so that new stage of a cover-up was initiated. I could see where Patsy Ramsey, maybe while it could be with John and the 21-year-old, or who knows, any kind of combination. But during that time, that Patsy could take on the letter, and I still think that's Patsy's handwriting actually in that book.
I mean, it's possible like that. She rewrote it. Like, what if like
rewrote the kids' notes?
Right. What if like they had already started it and then.
That's a good point. And people have fears that online as well. Yeah, that is a great point. That there's a thing where she saw these kids, notes and didn't do, because she has missing note pages. There's like 9 missing pages or something like that from that notebook where maybe she saw that, and that's why maybe the intro was redone.
Maybe that's why there was that one draft.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah. Oh. BlueCrab.
And that's the thing. So with this Doug Stine thing, it also falls into these other theories with the missing evidence of maybe somebody left that night, possibly on the bikes. With this whole missing bikes theory, Cotton Star has done great videos on it.
With the bike.
But basically, they've gone back and forth on who got bikes that Christmas, and it seems that Burke's bike was possibly missing, as he ended up with Patsy's. And so there's the whole thing with the Steins, and that's the thing. This Doug Stine kid and this caretaker who may or may have not have been there. Disclaimer: this kid was contacted by somebody on Websleuths via email, and he said his alibi was he's on California on Christmas.
He was in California.
Well, okay, that's far.
So, but we have the Steins though, and that's the thing. This is again the last house they visited, and the people that they would eventually end up moving in with.
That's right. They lived with them for a couple months.
So Susan Stine and Glenn Stine both worked at Colorado University.
Wow.
He was the VP of finance there, and she was something or other.
Well,
she was some sort of
high up.
director. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Fascinating how many connections there are with this university.
And
down
again,
the road.
so we know Susan Stine is also the woman who responded to the police at the Christmas party on the 23rd. From what they've said on Websleuths, though, and something new that I've never heard and is very interesting, this whole exchange with the policeman was supposedly done just through the intercom.
Wait.
As in, she didn't actually, nobody answered the door, but Susan Stine communicated to the police officer through the intercom.
Wow, that's some serious balls. So when the cops came after Fleet White called 911, and when they actually showed up, she never even opened the door.
She wouldn't let him in.
Again, Fleet's never said that he's the one that called it. We have never had that substantiated from him.
So weird, though.
Which is very
Like,
interesting.
What a
And
weird
again,
time.
we have reports of her being basically Patsy's bulldog, that she was also like monitoring all this online activity.
She was Patsy's bulldog. She was supporting her friend who was being attacked.
a spokesperson.
You know, she was ready to fight any bitch at the hair salon who had something to say about Patty.
And maybe this whole interest in looking online has to do with the fact that maybe her son was also involved in this murder. Maybe it was more interesting. And she really liked, remember our good friend?
Oh yeah, Tempest. Jameson.
Yeah, good old Susie, who we've reached out to her in regards to this episode, and we'll get to that later. She did respond to us.
Oh, she responded?
Nice.
So again, Susan Stine really liked Jameson because Jameson was the vehement defender of the Ramseys online.
That's right.
Kind of thing. But her online activity would also extend a little too far because in 2003, I believe it is, that she got in trouble for impersonating Chief Mark Beckner.
Oh my God.
So remember, the Ramseys lived with them for like about 6 months or so.
Yeah, that's right.
And they ended up moving and following them around the country, which we'll get to that.
Yeah,
She basically had reached out to a reporter via email in regards to an article they wrote that was very pro Ramsey, and it was like, you always nail these articles. Keep up the great work. And it was from like Chief M. Beckner, Boulder PD at Hotmail.
Hotmail.com. So Susan Stine.
Yeah. So the reporter was suspicious, so they called up to check with the chief, and he's like, no. So they actually got like the FBI involved, and they traced the IP to Susan Stine as the confirmed account holder of the internet out in Georgia. And she did admit to it as being her account. She never really copped specifically to the emails. So it's a thing of...
I mean, you're impersonating an officer. That's illegal.
But that's also the thing of, was it necessarily her?
It could have been her
was it a
son, who was more grown up at that time.
Who she's protecting.
2004,
again.
he was probably like, maybe 16?
And again, these kids are terminally online. Like, they grew up with this internet.
I mean, I've written so many emails. I've written.
I remember growing up with computers at that time. I think I'm smarter with people than computers than, the younger generation. And I'm sure they felt that way too, where like, oh, let's do these things where we pretend to be the chief. She basically said it was just an innocent joke. And it's like,
what kind of joke is that?
You are
not a joke. It's
definitely impersonating, and like, hey, you're saying like, keep writing these kinds of articles because the chief likes it.
Okay, Susan Stine, which also, it's like, this has been years later. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing anything like that, or
still obsessed, still reading up on it, because it's like, maybe somebody's going to start bringing up theories about my kid, like BlueCrab, who did start doing that.
Around that same
BlueCrab is
year.
the one that really birthed this whole theory with Doug Stine.
No one ever talks about Doug Stine.
And again, they introduced this house sitter. We're not sure if we're saying that right, but it doesn't matter because it's bleeped and you can't hear it.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter.
He's really downplayed. Number one, the police didn't know about him until 2000. The year 2000 for some reason.
That's unbelievable.
He lived with the Steins.
He lived with his son.
He took care of Doug. He drove the Ramseys to school. BlueCrab says that he's watched them. We know there's an instance where when Patsy in 1998 is questioned about the parade, basically she talks about how JonBenet was featured in this parade and it had a name on there. And then they ask, was Burke also featured in this parade?
Okay.
And she says, no, him and she pauses. We're off to the side watching. And there's a noticeable pause even written in the transcript after she says him and as if maybe she wasn't supposed to say.
Like, oh, I forgot to say.
We forgot that we're downplaying
at
all because he's barely ever mentioned. They try to downplay it again. It's like the same thing with Don Pa, whether or not he watched him enough. And BlueCrab talks about how the Ramseys took a trip with the Steins in early December to New York as well. After the November one.
After the other trip?
Where it was just the parents. Supposedly Nidra and Nathan were the main people that were watching.
They were babysitters?
During that time.
So that is so fucking weird that because this is also a case where, and everybody who's been following it knows, where like so many people and from so many corners of the Ramses, like, life, and like whether it was work or friends or whatever, like basically like all these people's names got like dragged through the mud and brought up as potential suspects, all this shit, whatever. But yet, just like with Papa Pa, with Don Paul, we never hear about this babysitter of the Stines. And the one time we ever heard him, it was like almost like a slip of the tongue from Passy, but then we never really, no one ever really talked to, or the police didn't even know about him until the 2000s. But it's like, but he was also spending a ton of time around the Ramsey circle.
He's never been formally questioned, or as BlueCrab would be upset, the Asian Pacific American Coalition, which has never been fully looked into.
Right.
But more on the Stines, going back to 1997. Via way of this Reddit post, where this is the only instance I've ever seen of this. It's now deleted. The user's now deleted their account, and Reddit made it so you can't use those websites to undelete stuff to see it. But it's from 3 years ago. Somebody basically hinted that they got extra inside info on the Stines, and they were like, "Oh, I got something I bet you haven't heard." And when somebody engaged them, they gave this story. They said, "I can't say for sure, but I worked internal audit at the time of the murder." This is talking about Colorado University. "But I hadn't been there about 3 months. Then in February 1997, I got married. And when I returned from my honeymoon, my boss had been relieved of his position at director because of something the director of finance and budget had done on his watch. It took me a while to realize it was Glenn Stine. But it had an impact on my life and career. It was sudden and unexpected. The staff left behind were left without a clue or a leader. I was told that Stine was escorted off campus. That kind of thing happens with financial impropriety usually, and he was the VP of budget and finance, so who knows? However, no charges were filed, so it's hard to say. I did some research of public record and found he refinanced his home equity 2 times in the first quarter of 97 with a net increase of about $112,000 in his debt. I do know about back then that the repayment of embezzled funds could make the difference in whether or not such a person might face criminal charges and prosecution. So I'm not exactly sure if he was gone due to his affiliation with the Ramseys, but he could be."
Oh my God, that is crazy. But and even the prospect that this guy refinanced his home or whatever twice at the same time that the Ramseys were living in it with him is also just weird. Where it's like, what do you have on your plate?
Curious amount of money, and then getting filed for financial impropriety, and maybe it had something to do with your living university student. That you possibly
you don't want anyone to know about.
Maybe you're doing funds from the school to pay this kid to be the babysitter kind of thing.
And
Susan Stine, by the way, they go on to say in the fall of 1996 was also relieved of her position at the university as the director of planning. She had a degree in journalism, so planning doesn't seem to fit her character. Plus her behavior with the press with the emails makes me think she might be a narcissist.
Oh my God.
More conjecture.
I mean,
but these guys were relieved of their duties, supposedly, okay? Yeah. But then they end up moving to Atlanta with the Ramseys, where John gets him a job at his new company, Jaleo, that he started.
Jaleo,
this big, high-paying job. Again, these people move out to Atlanta.
They move with them.
They move across the country. They left Boulder, Colorado. They started making gelato, and with the Ramseys.
Like Pasta J, Mike Bynum.
My God, they love Italian food.
Going to Moab.
Close.
It's interesting. Well, some people moving from Michigan too. Like it's a weird. Like, how do you have this amount of money where you're like so secure where you're able to get these people positions?
And also, like, how many people move to different parts of the country to be around people that aren't their family, but consistently but business partners and people they constantly work with. And also, I want to say really quick,
unless you want to keep the story straight.
Well, that But I also want to say real quick, I mean, for what's his name to be on relief of his duties or whatever at the university, the same month of February where we were seeing where what's his name, Michael Helgoff, he killed himself, and there was that press conference where I'm just almost wondering if there was any sort of thing of where eyes wanted to be taken off of certain people, and then attention put on other things, you know what I mean?
The timing is interesting.
Yeah,
it aligns,
I mean, the people that the PIs that the Ramseys had, through whomever, they also reached out to what's his name from that university at some point.
Michael Tracy. A lot of players from that university. Because also one of the people, John Hyatt for Access Graphics, used to be a coach
coach. Yeah.
For the sports team.
Well, he was, of course, for the sports team.
Oh.
So it's like, and then so it's not out of the realm of possibility of like, what if it was also like, almost like a situation room situation where it's like that house became where like anybody with any like skin in the game, whether it was public knowledge or not, or police knowledge or not, like we were all trying to come up with a thing, and they were even almost just like, and I'm saying this is just like one universe of ideas. I'm not married to it, but just like, oh, you know, like we get someone who like is dead, who can't defend themselves, and they become the thing, and that takes a lot more like pressure off us.
And it also could be less of getting a story straight or more of just monitoring the situation, as they didn't really seem to ask a lot of questions.
That's true.
Which we'll touch more on the questions later, but first the monitoring the situation. We do have a report of Susan Stine, who was supposedly listening in on Doug and Burke playing kind of around. And it's described that they were very coldly trying to come up with how they think she specifically died in regards to choking.
Oh my God.
Oh.
As it seems like maybe they were just told that bit of information. It was like, oh, she choked to death. And maybe Burke knows, or somebody knows they hit her.
Oh.
But they don't. And it's a situation of like, maybe it's interesting that it's even noted that they're coldly talking about it.
Yeah, like they're not even emotional about it, which just adds to, you know, Burke's whole profile.
And with BlueCrab's theory, again, then it goes along with the fact that these kids staged it as well. That Patsy didn't write the note, but that these kids staged it, possibly with the help of this college student.
Oh, God.
Type of thing. And then it went wrong. And because there's things missing from the crime scene. One being, you know, her panties.
Her panties were
Because she was dressed in these size 12 underwear, which, as somebody points out on Reddit, where it's like that would just fall off a 45 pound.
Yeah, that's a big underwear for a 6-year-old.
It's very juvenile cleanup, especially with the paint tray, as we talked about.
Something you could pull out of a washer or dryer.
So maybe it is a thing with Patsy, you know, with the note, they had started that and then never like.
And then she came.
Maybe they all got startled with like, you know, they heard people run out and it's like,
oh my God,
Burke's just left there and it's like, they don't like go to bed. What happened? Like, what did you do? And they find all of this.
Oh my God.
And they're like, I don't want to know. We're just going to fix it.
And then they got to fix it. But then at the end of the day, even by the time they're like calling people, they don't know like which boy like might have actually.
And they're trying to stage a crime in the dock with these flashlights, which could explain why they're
right.
Oh my God.
Neighbors are seeing flashes.
And the bicycles.
The missing bicycle, which was, again, they're not going to ask for it back. They didn't go back to that home.
Man.
They're not going to be like, oh, yeah, here's your bike back, Burke. The one you got for Christmas. Like, fuck that. You got to keep it now.
Right.
We know Burke ended up with his mom's bike, it seemed like, based off that CBS footage. I looked up the type of bike. It is a female one. So,
I mean, if they even tried to claim that bike back, then it'd be a matter of, oh, these guys were over at your house then.
And they took it.
And that wasn't part of their official story either.
And some people say it could be like it explained the missing duct tape roll of the cord. Again, these are not necessarily items that have to be traced back to something. It could just be loose items, but the panties like missing kind of thing.
Oh my God.
Possibly even the actual murder weapon.
I mean, see, and this is the thing. I've never even heard about 98 and then the babysitter because, you know, and yet like this has more teeth to it than I think even like some of the other theories.
Like this is so like
we almost got to redo our top 10 and maybe put this guy somewhere in the middle.
No, I mean, maybe put him on there, but I think still like Burke again with the actual relation to like the case. Patsy in 1998 when she was interrogated about Burke, she's asked by Tom Haney, what details would you know he had talked about with him about this case? She said, to be quite honest, we hadn't really talked with him about it. It's too hard, you know, it's hard to talk about. Has he volunteered information? No. Has he had questions? Shaking head. Tom Haney, never what's going to happen, who did it? No. From Patsy.
Oh.
What?
Thomas Haney, did he ever mention getting up at any time during the night? No.
Oh.
So he slept through until I believe it was John that ultimately got him up to take him to the furnace? Yes, to my knowledge.
To my knowledge. They always couching that shit because it's like, well,
right. Like
we didn't read the thing, but we would believe. It's like, okay. Sure.
Thomas Haney. And so that's one of the things. We're trying to work some of this and go through photos, obviously, but have you seen changes in Burke since the incident? He's grown like a little weed. I think he's a little more cautious, you know. He was kind of cautious, you know, looking around, see if anybody is parked. Shouldn't be parked, you know, locks the doors when he comes in and goes out, you know, those kinds of things. Which is kind of different from the demeanor that we saw of him where he didn't seem...
Like, he's not paranoid.
Very worried. Like in that... a couple weeks after.
You have to care to be paranoid.
Right.
And it doesn't seem like you ever care.
Even a couple weeks after.
Right.
Remember that psychologist interview with him where he's saying like he doesn't really...
He seemed fine.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with it now?
I kind of forget about it because I'm just going.
You're just playing your video games all the time.
Go.
Just doesn't care.
So his adjustment's been pretty good. She says pretty good.
Pretty good.
You mentioned, I think, when I asked you yesterday, had you seen an interview from last week with Burke? You said no. Patsy says no. There were like 3 days, and the first 2 days were pretty basic questions. But on the third day, there were questions where the discussions was around JonBenet and the death. And I'm no psychologist, psychiatrist, but I immediately noticed a change in Burke and his demeanor. He's curled up on the chair, something like this, not sitting like this, but a chair like this. And he's half in a fetal position, and it seems to be a real struggle, a real difficult time. I'm wondering if he noticed any similar changes. Patsy says, well, I may have. I have had him in therapy just for this reason. So that, I mean, the therapist explained to me that Burke may be trying to hold it together and be real strong for John and I, you know? And because I was saying it seemed to me like he needs to let it out, you know? He said, well, children handle things differently, you know, than adults. And he thinks Burke is fine. So I have to just take that as, I respect his opinion, Dr. Jaffe. But no, I have not. I have not directly, you know, noticed anything. Does it seem like he knows more than he's saying? And obviously he's not saying much? Right. Like he's keeping something in? Like something? Well, I think he does, you know, in our conversations when our friends call and when, you know, he has confrontations with the media. I'm sure that affects him. As far as something about who did it, I don't think he knows. I mean, he would say. Is that something you've asked the doctor to explore? I don't know if I've directly asked him that.
Jesus Christ.
So basically, long story short, Burke's not, they haven't talked to him about shit.
No.
They don't want to know possibly what happened. I don't think they want to know and that's part of BlueCrab's theory, that nobody really wants to know what happened that night.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
They just came in and cleaned it up.
It
They're
helps
like, I
them-
don't want to know. Like, we're just going to take care of it.
Or they're trying to give the impression that, like, oh, we don't think there's anything of any importance because he's so not related to anything of, like, you know, like the meat and potatoes of this crime, because they're also trying to distract people from the fact that maybe he probably fucking did it. Where it's like, you know, this whole thing of like them going like, oh, he hasn't said anything to us and blah, 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 blah. But then he's got a therapist he sees every 3 weeks, which isn't even that often. But then also like you haven't, like, the therapist isn't directed to try to, like, you know, figure out if there's things that he's not talking. The whole point of therapy is to talk about things and express things that you've repressed. You know what I mean? And you got literally this kid's like little sister died and he's not talking about even the night of, and he's telling you that he didn't even go, like, you know, downstairs that night, which we learned 20 years later that he did. So it's like, am I here to believe that he just didn't say anything to you, but then like he was like, he did have information he didn't want to talk about, or like that you like don't actually want him to like, or any interrogation you have, you don't want actually, you know, any information to come out of him because maybe they'll talk to him even more.
Right.
Right, and he lied. And we know he lied because
Right.
of him getting up in the middle of the night. And BlueCrab also points out an interview with this Dr. Barnhill, the first psychologist interview, where he lies basically about the fact that he wets the bed. He says it was, that's an old issue. We already took care of that. And she took note of the fact that he was lying about that because that's not true.
Oh my
God.
It was a more frequent issue and it wasn't as long ago, but that was an interesting.
And it was a natural lie he just threw in.
Just
like
casual liar.
He's a casual little shit. Here was that clip again of him with the guy in 1998, once he had finally shot up like a weed.
And you know, it's been a long, painful process for you. Up to now. Hasn't it? And for your mom and dad?
Probably.
Why do you think you're here?
You want to find out who killed my sister?
That was awfully nonchalant.
Yeah, he's just like, you want to know who killed my sister?
Oh my God.
And he starts in that one position, but throughout the interview ends up in a multitude of
He looks like a drunk guy just sitting there like spouting off some bullshit. Like, it's crazy.
He gets less confident throughout. That's where the pineapple thing is, where he stalls for so
He's
fucking
acting
long.
like we're trying to trade Pokemon cards. It's like, no, dude, like.
So BlueCrab held this theory, and it's a thing of, you know, when you see it, you know, then a lot of people question it, thought he was absolutely crazy. But you'll see now posts about him saying like he was right, and it's crazy. Like, you know, where is he now though? Because that's the thing is he stopped posting. I found one incident in about 2005 where BlueCrab makes a post saying, "Will the real BlueCrab please stand up?" And it was in regards to somebody on Jameson's Websleuths. And that one's again spelled with 2 B's.
Oh my God. All that shit again. I
Yeah.
just remembered.
No, the Dragnet or some shit. And so there was an imposter on those forums posting. And basically he was saying, you know, I've been aware of this. This is not me. And he basically says, I have got a friend who's posting over there and she's going to make a post on my behalf challenging that person to write on my account here $118,000. And that'll prove that you can't do it because you can't. He's like, so he issued that challenge, and it seemed like he was scared to go over to Jameson's Web Truths. Because as we know from the episode we did on Jameson's, link above, there was this whole doxing situation where she's again claimed that she didn't dox anybody, but that was this whole fallout with her and her original partner, yada, yada, yada. So further in that Websleuths thread, we find out that it turns out that Jameson knew that it was an imposter. Somebody got in touch with her and she said that she kept the posts up because she found them interesting. And she said that basically anybody could have checked the IP and seen it wasn't the real one. But a user on that forum checks it out and says, no, it says you can't see that. Only Jameson can see this.
On what basis is this something that's interesting? You know what I mean? If something was an imposter was pretending to be her and just writing shit, she'd know that she would have brought that shit down. You know what I mean? But
I think she's curious about stuff and like people's identities and stuff. I think she would want to dig into that stuff, thinking she's like, a sleuth, but really just taking advantage of the fact that you run a forum kind of thing. So I think if anything, it could have also, she left it going for bait. As a thing to possibly see if the real BlueCrab would try to come in to defend themselves, but they were smart enough to do it. Who knows why she did it? I did ask her, and I included those questions about whether or not basically was it bait or anything like that. And her response:
does she take a time out of her old person nap to say something?
I never tracked BlueCrab's IP and never discussed BlueCrab with the Ramseys. Trisha and her minions are wrong about a lot of things. So are you.
That must be hot.
Thanks for the response, Jameson.
Oh, you did call her old as fuck and you shit all over her.
She's not young. And she's not right.
Well, and in regards to what she's saying, in regards to I didn't give her information to his information to the Ramsey, him or her, honestly. We don't know if it's a woman or a girl. Because again, they stopped posting. And it's been theorized during their disappearance that they were possibly tricked into going to a Jameson site and that information was doxed and given to the Ramsey PIs, somebody who encouraged them to stop posting for your health.
Found him, tracked him down.
I've tried to find the source of this, where this started, because there's a lot of different ones, like involving like he was just tracked by Ramsey PIs through something else, not necessarily Jameson.
Oh yeah.
And I can't find the origin for it. They all seem to be secondhand accounts. I found where it's first posted on Websleuths, but not where it really originated from, because that person's saying, "Oh, I heard this" kind of thing. There's also been theories in regards to around 2012, people were still talking about him and they were getting kind of wistful. We're like, man, I wonder if he ever released a book. And then somebody's like, maybe he just did Winky Face. And this was right around the time that James Kohler did his book, The Foreign Faction. And so people were theorizing like maybe.
Do they talk about the babysitter and stuff like that in Foreign Faction?
So that stuff I supposedly was removed last minute from certain publications of stuff, like in regards to that.
Like they couldn't use that in the
certain things where there's people who people on Websleuths went through the index and noted where the house sitter was mentioned, and it's like there's like 2 entries in there that aren't actually.
Oh, interesting.
So
censorship.
As far as like maybe something happened, because that's the other thing. People have theorized that he got a cease and desist in regards to the posting, as she did, and they disappeared. And I just find it interesting because people have they've called this, people saying like, where are you? Like, what happened to him? They wish he'd come back. Because they haven't logged in since, again, it says their last active was January of 2008. But their last post was on June 17th.
Wow.
And so 2008 doesn't mean that necessarily it was him. Maybe the person died.
Maybe somebody got.
Yeah. That's
another theory that I saw that hasn't been explored, the final thing for this, just to close it out, because this was crazy, was that I looked into the American Pacific Asian Coalition. And part of the reasons it started was due to this incident of violence on this Asian man back in the 70s.
Oh my God.
Vincent Chin. He was brutally assaulted at his bachelor party by 2 white men.
Oh my God.
Who ended up getting let off. They didn't spend a day in jail because the judge said that these boys they don't deserve to have their life ruined over this.
What happened to him?
He died after 3 days in a coma.
He died
on June 23rd.
And they just let him go?
They just let him go. But the 25th anniversary of his death was the last day of BlueCrab's posts.
Uh-oh.
This guy that's always posted about the Asian Pacific American Coalition.
Oh my God. That the thing that was started because of this guy's murder on his bachelor party. Holy shit. That is a weird coincidence. Synchronicity.
We're still going to look into it. We want to find BlueCrab.
Oh my goodness.
We want to find BlueCrab.
If he's still alive, he's probably dead.
I think he might be from the UK because I saw him use blooming idiot in one post. So I'm like, that's not.
Oh, blooming idiot. Like Donna.
Or just like an overly autistic white kid kind of thing.
Something, he watched Snatch one time and was like, wah, wah, wah,
but he was right. He was right on a lot of things. He proposes some interesting theories.
Yeah, he definitely was right about a lot of stuff. He was right about like, you know, well, he definitely had inclinations of almost like inside knowledge about the trial, where, you know, the jury whatever thing.
I think it was his opinion. He was just spot on.
But it was like, but it's so specific, and it was also like something that was like people were just under the impression that like these guys were let off from all that shit. There was no sort of like, oh, they were really guilty and it's being like hidden or whatever around that time, that dialogue. You know, people were talking about the Iraq War, American Idol, and they weren't talking about like, oh, Burke Ramsey, like he could have been, you know, he was like, you know, charged or whatever the fuck, but whatever. Or but like the, you know.
He had unpopular opinions, like even the stun gun too. He does believe that was involved as well.
And but at the same time,
it was like a sexual game because he subscribed to Cyril Weck's theory that it was some sort of sexual game possibly gone wrong playing with these kids as well.
I mean, it's definitely strange that there's this babysitter character from the Stines who is conveniently completely like scrubbed for whatever reason, as well as maybe potentially like, even when we've talked about the Stines or them stopping at the Stines house, it's always been almost like, how long were they at the Stines? Blah, 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 blah. Did JonBenet go up there with Patsy to help hand out presents?
Maybe the Ramseys didn't even know they were coming over. Maybe the kids would just let them in.
Possibly.
They snuck in to play
or,
with the flashlights.
You know, or maybe they brought them over. And then that's one of the things of just like the cover up of like them saying that, oh, we carried JonBenet upstairs. And
home base.
When it's like, actually you had, you know, 2 other boys over there, but like, you know, you're also using that family to like, as your camp, you know, while you can't be in your home no more before you move back to Atlanta. I mean, there's so much shit that then it's like this guy existed, the Stines existed, and Susan Stine, she's an interesting character. I don't know how I feel about some of the more extreme sort of things with like whatever, like
the
that,
American Pacific, yeah,
you know, that doesn't, I'm like that, whatever. And then also like the taser or whatever, you know, the marks that we saw were inconsistent with that, but. I do believe, like, there's a reason why, Bobby, you couldn't, like, stop thinking about N64. And I think that there's something potentially there of even that could be a weapon, or that maybe it was, like, not just Brent, that maybe there was another person there, and, you know, and just fucking... Boys will be boys, you know what I mean?
Until they daughter's dead, and this is horrific.
And you gotta you woke up early enough in the morning to fucking try to cover this shit up, or maybe they didn't sleep at all. You know what I mean? Patsy was still wearing that same shit that she wore the night before, and there were flashlights flashing in the middle of the night. You know, so it's fascinating, but it's also like, man, you know, here we thought we like, you know, knew a ton of stuff about the case, and I think
who was there. Like, no, we don't.
And they didn't call the Stines over that first movie. They called everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's the thing. Maybe Susan Stine had something on him. Maybe it was something happened at that Christmas party. That again, we're going to do our Christmas party episode.
Wow.
Yeah. That she's able to hold over, and where it's like, well, shit, there's no way Susan's going to believe that maybe Doug did this, or we could even bring that up. And
right. Or even
maybe it's just the air of mystery of one of our kids did it. We don't ever want to know.
Or we don't want the police to know that the Stines have this babysitter who was also in our house last night. Like,
that's
so
not
don't,
related to
you know,
them.
let's
That
call
just
these other
lives with
neighbors.
them.
And that's always been a weird thing too, of like the Stines were the last people you saw, but like you didn't even call them the next day. I mean,
and financial impropriety. Maybe he was paying the kid illegally. So if it gets shown that he was the babysitter, if he gets in trouble for
oh my God, what's
the guy, this director of finance at the Colorado University.
Oh my God.
Conflict of interest.
Everybody's got things that
there's weird things there. There's weird things there.
There's weird connections.
So let us know what you guys think in the comments.
Yeah.
Abby, that was good.
Yeah, it was really good.
And
Really good
BlueCrab,
research.
BlueCrab, if you're out there, you know, scuttle on over here. We miss you. You know?
Yeah, this safe space. You know, and yeah, that was really great. Well, I think I'm ready to head out now, and I'll see you guys later.
All right, buddy.
Teddy's ready to go.
All right. Well, hey, I'm Bobby Pavlovsky.
I'm Daddy Ronald Reagan Dismecchia.
And this is
JonBenet today.
It's
I love the Rolling
it's a
Stones.
vibe, but
Shut up.
Start me up, it's start me up. Shut up.
You shut up.